There was a time when my business owned me. I was working 24/7, stressed out of my mind. And honestly, I was losing hope. I felt like everything was falling apart from my own screw ups, from bad hires, having no systems, and I was trying to do everything. I was trying to be the superhero. You name it, I've probably done that mistake. So my business was dying a slow and painful death. But I figured out what I need to do to stop that. So in this video, I'm going to share exactly the hard lessons I learned, and then the lessons I learned growing Clean Zen, my business, from 0 to 7 figures and eventually 8 figures. These are the exact screw ups to avoid and the shifts you need to make to grow. So let's get into it. So the first massive mistake I made growing my business was trying to do everything myself. Like, I was wearing all the hats for my business. That made me lose sleep. I wasn't making any progress. I wasn't growing my business, so I was stuck and I was losing my sanity. I wasn't happy at that time. So Clean Zen started as a side hustle. This was I was in the last semester in college. In my dorm room, I was reading a book. So you gotta understand, from the beginning, I started Clean Zen in my dorm room last year in college. And from that side hustle, from there, I was also working a full-time job at a high-stress corporate job, high-stress accounting job. So at that time, it was just me and one assistant. At that time, I was wearing every single hat. I was doing sales calls, managing customer service. I was doing payroll, doing marketing, making sure the teams are on field. So basically everything. And name it, I was doing that. And at one point, I was so desperate, I actually cleaned a customer's house. Don't ever do that. So why did I do that? Honestly, I thought I was going to save more money doing that myself. I didn't believe that anyone else could do it better than me. I didn't know how to build systems and delegate at that time. And the consequences of that, man, was bad. I was burned out. I was stressed. I gained a lot of weight. Had no work-life balance. Wasn't seeing friends. Wasn't doing any of my hobbies. And my business suffered, My business was stuck. I wasn't answering customer emails. Customers were constantly complaining. My one and only staff at the time hated working with me. So I couldn't blame her. It was my fault. So the big moment that kind of changed everything was from reading the book, The Goal. And from this book, it kind of changed my perspective completely. So I realized I was the biggest bottleneck. And everything had to go through me, and it just mixed. So the shift was stop trying to do everything, stop trying to wear every single hat, and start delegating, and start trusting my staff. And even if they don't do it 100% like me, but if they do it like 70 or 80%, that's damn good progress. Also, that I should only focus on high leverage activities, things that move the needle, and I should delegate the rest. What do I do differently? From day one, I would build systems and processes, and I will delegate the rest. As the founder, I should only work on things that kind of move the needles. Everything else should be delegated. Okay, so this is the action plan. If you're stuck, I would say read these 3 books, and it's gonna totally unstuck your business. So the first one is called E-Myth Revisited, and the second one is called Scaling Up, and the third one is called The Goal. So these 3 books, they're going to teach you everything you need about delegating tasks and setting up systems and processes. After burning out and being stressed, the second mistake I made was trying to hire anyone and everyone. Hiring the wrong person is a big mistake. So I was desperate for help. And at that time, I didn't have applications. I didn't do any testing. I had no expectations. I just wanted someone to take off work from my plate. So the consequences of that is that bad hires, consequences of hiring the wrong person is they can cause you way more stress, not less, more. I couldn't trust the work. I was double checking the work while on top of that doing my own tasks. I was doing basically double the amount of work. And at that time, having bad customer service actually hurt your business. And it didn't feel like my business was going forward. It felt like I was going backwards. Okay, so things started to change. I started having an application. I started doing phone interviews. And then at this point, I hired my first great employee, Jane. And once I hired Jane, everything changed. And suddenly I can trust her with everything. She was handling payroll. She was doing a great job on that. Handling customer service. She was basically wearing all the hats, every hat that I didn't want to do. She took it on and she did a great job. She honestly took a lot of weight on my shoulders. And this taught me how hiring the right person can really change the business. Okay, so that was my big lesson. You want to filter through your candidates. You want to have a job application in some way, evaluate them, and then give feedback quickly. So I learned the saying, hire slow and fire fast to be. So these are the advice that I'll give you, actionable tips. The first one is, what is the company's core values? What are the values that you look for in the person there? And they're non-negotiable. And the second is build a simple filter. It could be a screening questions or an application or an initial quick call. Don't just talk to everyone. You want to filter it down and narrow it down. Okay, so the third thing is you want to test them. You want to test them based on the role and make it simple and low stakes. Fourth, you want to give them constant feedback. And you want to pay close attention to how they receive it and what they do with the feedback. So after all that, the first mistake I made was trying to do everything myself. The second mistake I made was hiring the wrong person. Now this one is having a lack of clear processes and systems. So I learned this the hard way. So even if you manage to delegate all your tasks and you hire the right person, but you don't have clear processes and systems, none of that matters. So in the early days when I was hiring people, kind of honestly, I felt like a headless chicken. I felt like a chicken without a head running around, doing everything. Okay, so I kind of expected people to just figure it out. Honestly, that's a big mistake. So I thought that documenting your processes was low priority, right? I thought making the sale was way more important. Making sure customers are happy it's way important. But all knowing what I know now, that means nothing without systems. Okay, so what are the consequences of having no systems? Your staff is always making mistakes. 2, results are inconsistent. 3, customers are always angry. So your staff is going to be always frustrated. They don't know what to do. And I always have to answer, and as a boss, you always have to answer the same question over and over again. So a lot of time was wasted like answering the same questions over and over instead of focusing your attention on growing the business. So the biggest lesson I learned is systems and processes are the business backbone. They're every successful business's backbone. So you want to spend time documenting all your processes, doing screen shares, creating every single small step that you need for those, everything, document everything. So this is why massive companies, kind of like McDonald's, they can expand, they can bring the food consistently. So this is why McDonald's can operate consistently around the world, because they have amazing systems and processes. So they build really clear. So what will I do differently now? From day one, I will document every repeatable task. From there, I'm going to make a step-by-step guide. I will also just record my screen, and then your staff can see every single small thing. And from there, I'll just create a simple step-by-step guide. And as you grow, just keep improving your processes and systems, and you're going to see crazy results from that. So let's talk about an obvious mistake that doesn't seem so obvious to others, and that's branding. So branding is crucial for growth. In the early days when I started my business, I had my head down, taking phone calls, sales calls, doing customer service, doing emails, right? So in the beginning, I underestimated how important branding was. I thought that branding was just a nice logo or a nice website, but that's far from the truth. And I actually thought that having a great service would actually grow my business, but that's not true. So what happened to our business? We actually kind of just blended in. There's almost like hundreds of cleaning companies where I'm at in Boston. We had no clear values, and we attracted the wrong customers that only care about price. We couldn't charge extra. We couldn't charge premium pricing, and our brand didn't reflect a premium product. So what I realized is branding, it's a full-on customer experience. It's not just design. So branding is a competitive advantage. It helps you stand out in a completely crowded business like mine. Okay, so once we nailed down our branding and our message and delivery, our business exploded. So this is what I would do exactly on day one. Define your mission and define your values. So step 2 is treat your branding as an investment. And step 3 is create a consistent branding and image on every platform you're on. The last and biggest mistake I made on my journey is chasing shiny objects. And I still make this problem. Okay, so instead of focusing on my business, when things got hard or when business got easy. Instead of like focusing on my one business, I was interested in drop shipping, interested in real estate, and into stocks. And I was kind of like bouncing all around those. So what happened? I got bored with the day-to-day run my business. I fell into the hype, started a drop shipping business from a basement. Honestly, I think I got bored of my boring business and I fell for the hype from all these gurus on YouTube talking about starting their drop shipping business on Amazon. They're making $200,000 a month, and there's a lot of sexy businesses. So I didn't understand of having focus, effort, power of focus. So at that time, I was kind of this scatterbrain, but I didn't understand the power of focus, effort. Okay, so what were the consequences? At that time, there were a lot of consequences of this. There was a lot of waste of time, a lot of waste of money, and mental energy. Cleans in, then grow. We're stuck. And then my team started noticing my drift. So this is what I realized. Focusing, it's super important. And just focusing on one thing for a long period of time and do it really well, it's a great thing. So there are no such thing as a sexy business. So jumping to new ideas is actually one of the worst mistakes you can do. So what I'll do differently now is just focus on one thing, push through the hardships. So focus on one thing and go deep at it. When it gets hard, or when you feel stuck, keep pushing. So to wrap up the video, these are the main lessons I've learned is try to do everything myself. I hired the wrong person. I didn't have systems or processes in place. And 4, I didn't understand branding. And number 5, I was chasing every shiny object that I saw. So the big takeaway is these actually seems like separate problems, but they're not. They're actually interconnected in some way. To have an amazing business, you need the right person. You need to have great instructions. You need to have great systems and processes, strong branding, and you want to stay focused on that. So final words. So building a business is like a marathon, not a sprint. And if you focus on these mistakes that I've made and you work on them, you're going to build an amazing business. So you have the power to build a business that you're not going to be the bottleneck. With these lessons that you learned, you have the power to build an amazing business. Now go build it. Second video on YouTube,